Yeah, so I was independent. Then I came across a couple of opportunities where I can take my talents to Miami, no, where I can be able to go out there. And I partnered with some other companies over the years that gave me a much bigger platform, gave me thousands of clients to help. Um, yeah. And those companies that didn't control pricing, they control the pricing, they control the logistics, the legal, all that stuff. I just went out there and did what I know how to do. I trained up as a part of my duties. I developed relationships with corporate accounts, including but not limited to like attorneys, licensed insurance, licensed real estate, um, tax professionals, things of that nature, building out several thousands of accounts across the country with that company. I also was able to find myself training and developing other people to do repair during that time. So I had a truly eclectic experience on every aspect of it. At one point, I think I had taken maybe 100 or so different types of um, like early level leadership or early level creators back before it became this what it is today, but 2014, 2016, people who had experience and be able to equip them to be able to do this kind of work. And then I went back and I said, hey, I started getting to the point where I no longer enjoyed it beyond the processing side of it. I enjoyed the customer side of it. And then I stopped enjoying that part. And then I found myself in the small business arena again, helping other small businesses and really being more passionate about helping them. So I started getting into the business credit side of the ledger.
Hmm.
2018, 2019, 2020, pandemic hits. I'm learning how to navigate funding around that time. And, you know, I started saying, hey, I'm willing to focus on the business owner and business credit. And I used to throw in the credit included. So hey, I'm going to help you. Because now I'm going back independent and there's rules, just so you're clear, there's laws and rules in how under the CROA, which is a Credit Reporting Organization Act, that allows companies similar to mine, things like they do that are governed by certain aspects of it, which allows for you to do certain things. You can do certain things.
Okay.
So, the liability of me getting into the business again, I knew I didn't just want to do it casually. So, StartNow, which is how we are connected, is predicated mostly in working with professionals and professional referrals. Those who have some kind of fiduciary responsibility to the client referral, that I found those to be better than. So I don't necessarily market directly to the public anymore. I focus strictly on these kinds of connections, these professional connections, and those are ideal. As far as the business clients are concerned, I still do direct market directly to business clients, but that's kind of where my passion is. We can facilitate personal, but that's kind of like the journey where StartNow is now. It was like I decided last year to go back independent. Just kind of a quick snapshot to go independent because this can go real long, but go back independent.
I'm with
And
you still, man. You got me. Just keep
yeah,
talking.
right. But this is where I found myself saying, hey, it's more important that I really kind of lock in and say, hey, what do I want a company to look like? What do I want it to stand for? What is the mission? What's the core values? And we want it to be about people. We want it to be a God first company. We're unapologetic about that. We wanted to make sure God was the center of our business. And we wanted to ensure that we are finding ourselves living to the creed of, we get to choose who we work with, right? So I think that's what we are today. And I found that through person to person, old school call it belly to belly, I'm able to develop real relationships, get to know individuals like yourself through this process that allows us to be able to get the kind of referral, the kind of connection with clients that, truly trust our decision making. I had a client last night was like, you know, tell me what you want me to do. Like, here's the thing. It is such a low hanging fruit in terms of so many people are impacted by it. It opens the door for a lot of other people to come in. But once they're in that door, they want to know, when somebody trusts you something as intimate as their social security number, and you do right by them. they'll tell you, they'll open up and say, hey, I'm an open book now. Tell me about my insurance. Tell me about my legal implications. Right. You know what I mean? You start to see that, man, it is so crucial to take care of people and do the right thing, because you can help them in any aspect. When I refer somebody, or a real estate agent refer somebody and they sell a home, that's the same kind of environment, Antonio. It's like when people trust you with a purchase and you do right by them, you can't do wrong in their eyes, right? You got this glow to you, so to speak. And that's kind of where we are now. We're in this place where we're really showing that we care more than just the payment.
That's deep. That's deep. And there's a book. If I knew exactly where it was, I would go pull it up right now. But I have a big mess on my bookcase right now. But it's called The Speed of Trust, and that's what you describe when someone shares something as intimate as and personal as the financials or their social security number, something like that. The debt that they're carrying. That's a very personal conversation, and you need to have some level of trust to even share that information. Now, when you as a professional can take that information and execute on some processes that you know can help the client and it produces results for the client, that's what accelerates trust. So that's the speed of trust. When you have speed of trust and honestly depth of trust, that means that the client trusts you for a lot of more areas of their lives. And what you describe is exactly what happens. Now, you use it in your case, credit, to help people with an immediate need that is urgent to a lot of them. It is important to a lot of them. Two ingredients to get people to act, right? Urgent and needed. And you do it in a way that delights the customer, right? That's the word. You were looking to delight the customer. And that's everything. That's a customer for life. Whether or not hopefully they don't need your services again, right? That's the point. I'm educating you to the point that you don't let this thing happen again, but the relationship stays for other things. So that's the concept of the speed of trust. Another interesting thing that you said is, hey, I need to become a person of value, right? I need to learn more about this business, the industry, what's really moving the needle in the right direction for my clients, what really has a real impact on the results that we're looking for. And I wanted to ask you, because I'm not clear on the answer for myself. The industry is highly regulated, right? The financial industry is highly regulated. How things are reported to credit bureaus is regulated. How that information is handled is regulated.
Right.
Are professionals in your area, in your industry regulated? Like you, are you regulated? Okay.
Yes. We're governed under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, Fair Debt Collections Act, CROA as an organization, Credit Reporting Organizations Act. So there's a lot of different compliance components. Some states, you have to have additional licensing and approval from the financial services side in order to engage in business. Some states require license and bonding in some capacities. Now, with the advent of the internet and most people swarming this profession, which is basically tied to, pseudo coaches trying to tell people to join without any real premise of what it takes. You got a lot of people who are operating outside of those norms. And, which means they're easier to disappear when things don't go right after they've collected payment, which has been a significant issue. It's always been an issue from the 90s, but at the level and scope of it now, it's a lot greater. But yeah, we are governed under various regulatory bodies in terms of the fact that this is all consumer protections in place. So, I try to separate us from the others because, again, if you are doing it the right way, if you're doing it the right way, you should be fine. And that's why we try to separate ourselves. Like, hey, I know someone else out there might promise you can get it taken off in 3 days. I'm not going to do that. I'm not making such promises. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you there's no guarantee I'm gonna do anything is gonna lead to a result. I can say from experience, thousands of files and deletions. It's a lot more than that, but through experience, ultimately, I can see where the trend will be. What if we do X is going to lead to a certain result or yield just based on similarities. But we cannot guarantee anything. Legally, you're not supposed to. And but people want to hear what they want to hear, and I've lost business because I refuse to guarantee to someone what I cannot guarantee.
Yeah, no, I get that, and that's I think the big takeaway here is here are some of the flags. When you need help with your credit, whether it's personal, commercial, and next I want us to talk a little bit about the difference between the two and why they're important, because I think that's something that we need to really spell out for our audience. But before we get into that, when you have some kind of need, financial need, credit need, help with your credit, there are certain things that you should be looking at. That it's a crowded space. So how do you tell the good from the bad, the professional versus the non, the relationship versus the transactional, and experience versus inexperience? And the way that I'm, what I think I heard is, number one, we are all regulated. So if you're looking at someone that's offering to help you with your credit, that's the first thing you need to look at. What are they certified on? What are their licenses? Trust but verify. That's one thing. The other flag for me is this word guarantee. There's a lot of things that you can't just say is guaranteed. And it goes back to your previous comment about that people's financial and credit situation is almost like a thumbprint, because it's probably 90% common, but that extra 10% is what makes a difference. That difference in people. That's the same thing happened with thumbprints, right? It's largely the same, but that last 10% is what identifies you as you. So those are two flags, This is something that is based on trust. Trust is a very personal situation. I would look at those two things first. Ed, tell me about your licensing and coursework and experience and regulation. What do you adhere to? And number two, what are your results? And when they start talking, you know what, I'm gonna guarantee you X, Y, and Z in 72 hours. Well, that should be a flag. That should be a flag. Is that fair to say, Dave?
I think that within the context of two forms, not every state is regulated. Not every state requires a license. So,
okay,
like you said, Florida doesn't require a license, right? Just to be bonded. So, for my state, asking me for a license to verify to do business with me would be a fool's errand. Now, am I licensed? I'm licensed financial professional because of the fact that I carry license in other things. However, specifically for credit on the consumer side, it doesn't require one. So you wouldn't get one from me if you asked me for one.
But you will get that straight answer. See, someone who's not legit or not fully committed to this profession will just dance around that, or will tell you that they are when there's no licensing requirement.
Now I will agree to that for sure. One of the things I'll tell people to really ask for, Google reviews can be manipulated. Testimonials are good. But the truth be told is really the heart of how to know if someone can help you. Because even someone who's new may not have some of those things, and you want to give them a chance. Because if people didn't give me a chance, I wouldn't be here today. So I think the hallmark of what to find out when you're asking for help is how do they make a promise? You don't want you don't want to promise it. So that is definitely a flag. But other than that, I would say if they're willing to be transparent about how long they've been doing it and how the length of time they've been doing it, that's helpful. Doesn't always guarantee skill. Years in it doesn't mean skill. There's plenty of people I talk to for over 10 years and I go over certain concepts. They have no idea what I'm talking about. So it's less about skill. So the next thing you're asking is like, hey, how do you approach this the same across the board no matter what you do? If they say I approach it the same way no matter what, that may be a little bit of a pause there, because again, it's not about following steps, because steps can work 70% of the time, but you might be the one client where it don't work. So you need to know that they can be able to critically think outside of what they normally do as a, copy and paste. So it's like, hey, how are you experiencing this? You're new now. Okay. Do you just, how do you approach this? Have you done this? Is it the same thing? Is it the same process each time? If they said the words yes, then and then do they make guarantees? So other than that, because I want to give new people that come into the space a chance to be successful. So I want people to give them an opportunity, but just know when you give a new person an opportunity, you got to give them space and time. They're not going to do it in 90 days. It may take them 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to help you, but they should charge accordingly, right? Their price should reflect, I need help over a period. But, so hopefully that helps, because again, I want to give new people, new emerging people in the space who are legitimate, to have a chance to succeed, so we can begin drowning out all these fraudsters on the internet.
Clear. That's a clear message. Okay. So understanding that, we touched on this earlier, but I think I'm going to ask you to kind of delineate in this concept. A lot of us are familiar with personal credit, credit score, FICO score. The better, the higher the score, the less it costs me to obtain financing.
Right.
Whether it's a credit card, buying a car, buying a house, getting a mortgage, buying insurance, those kinds of things. So I think most people are familiar with the concept. What is commercial credit? What does that thing even exist? Tell me about that. Tell us about that.
So shifting from consumer, there are laws in the book. The biggest difference I want to tell you that kicks this immediately off the bat, and then we can go into the separation of each kind of thing. The biggest thing that separates the two between a consumer, or what we call naturally personal credit, and commercial, which we call naturally business credit, is the fact that the assumption is a consumer is not capable of understanding to a degree in which they need to be protected from companies taking advantage of them. It's essentially what the approach is between the two. On the business or commercial side, the assumption is you're no longer a layman the moment you engage into business. Not recognizing that, and this is a different podcast, but not recognizing that the complications of just because a person raised their hand and became an entrepreneur doesn't mean they're not a consumer. There's things they just don't understand. You know what I mean? So the challenge there is the nuance between the two. But let's get to the point of separation. We all know that personal credit is tied to 5 factors that usually are governed, right? Now we'll go into those in just a moment. On the business side, it's not as many factors. Chief 2 things they ask for in the business world is payment, how often, how quickly you pay. So if a person pays on time, that's average, that's expected. You pay early, you're doing above average, which essentially you have a greater scores if you pay your invoice or before its due date. So one of the tricks of the trade is pay 3, 7, 14 days before its due date, and you'll boost your score pretty quickly on the business side. Because there's not a lot of laws on the business side to protect you from being taken advantage of, so to speak. There's not a lot of freebies over there. You can't get a free credit report annually. You can't get discounted month monitoring. They charge full price, full retail on the commercial side, right? There's hundreds of commercial entities that somewhat provide a credit rating or credit score, but the main, 3 to 4 are Duns & Bradstreet, which is the biggest one for vendor-based credit or terms-based credit. Then there's Experian, has their business division, and Equifax has a business division. There is a 4th one that's been making some headway lately that's mostly international. And we'll get into that in just a moment. But the bottom line is those are the big 3 on the commercial side compared to the big 3, which is TransUnion, Equifax, and not Experian.
So there is such a thing as business credit.
Yes, sir.
And does every business have business credit?
So yes or no. So here's the reality. If you are able to start a company and for the most part do not engage in any commerce with another business entity, you can function without triggering a score. Now, what does that mean? That means if you are have an LLC and you decided to do Uber or Lyft, right? You don't really have a direct business entity. Even though Uber and Lyft is carrying you, it's not the same. It's not a vendor relationship. If you're selling food from your truck and you're buying it from the grocery store or even Sam's, whatever, and it's a direct customer, no real vendor relationship, then you should be able to go without a score, right? Now, the moment you engage into a vendor relationship, so instead of buying it from Sam's or BJ's as a direct customer, you're buying it as a business, and you set up a business account with them or a Uline or etc. What ends up happening now, you trigger DNB, Duns and Bradstreet, to capture you as a business entity. Even if you didn't trigger your own, they will trigger one for you. Okay, because the business will report the company you're doing a vendor relationship with. If they report to DNB normally, they will report their relationship with you, even if you don't know. That has connotations to it. Whatever is on your Sunbiz is going to be reported on your application, is going to be reported to Dun & Bradstreet. Experian and Equifax are going to capture what is on your Dun & Bradstreet because now Dun & Bradstreet is reporting you. So at some point, Experian and Equifax will capture who you are and report you as bad credit. Because you haven't engaged with them directly or you don't have fostered any relationships or credit lines that shows up on their side properly, they show you up as a high risk company. Dun & Bradstreet, to kind of get you straight line, they probably can give you a Paydex score of 80. Paydex score is their scoring algorithm. But at the end of the day, if you miss payments through that vendor you're working with, then it's going to drop accordingly and go up accordingly. But Experian and Equifax are going to assume that you're bad and they're going to give you a bad score. And that happens more times than not where people don't even know they have a bad business credit score versus a good one. Oh, but I have such and such business credit card. Cool. They don't report. Lately, because of the advent of another scoring model, FICO rolled out some kind of hybrid that allows them to get a scoring model involved, and that captures other banking cards. But that's super deep. That's a whole nother breakdown right there. So I don't know if we want to really take your audience that far deep in the rabbit hole.
Probably not today, but just a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Does a business credit card, is that a vendor?
Yes and no. That's the trick to it. It depends on who is the actual furnisher. So if you get a Amex card, typically it doesn't show up as a vendor account under the DNB purposes, but Experian might recognize it because a lot of times these companies will go through Experian to approve you. But if you personally guarantee it, right, they use your credit score to issue the business credit card, which Amex is notorious for doing. They're willing to give you, if you have a great credit score over 680, there's a good chance you can get an Amex card for $2,000 at the default limit from Amex. Plug, hint, hint. But if that happens, they kind of like lock you in until you have a lot of volume, then they'll raise you based accordingly to it. But Amex, you don't play with Amex if you really play with the big boys because they'll drop you if you stop using them often. So you got to be careful on that. But they're willing to give you to you on your personal, which means it tends not to show up if they give you on your personal. Is when you engage with fuel cards that can both report to DNB and Experian. A lot more vendors are DB Experian than they are DB Experian and Equifax. So it's like knowing which ones report to what. So as far as Newegg, like a computer software program that allows for you to have access They have a vendor account. But again, it really depends on who the furniture is, because some reports to Dun & Bradstreet and Experian. Most do because they're the most dominant, but some also report to Equifax, but it's very few and far between. Again, there's so much other components that ties to that, but that's just give a quick surface level.
No, I appreciate that because there's a lot of misinformation around this topic. So I wanted to at least present the topic as yet another reason why you should have a conversation with Dave Morris and have a clear understanding about your particular thumbprint, your particular situation. So understanding that there's clear similarities and differences between consumer and business credit. What is the mission that StartNow carries? What is your mission with StartNow? What are you hoping to accomplish when you help your clients?
And the simplest way is for us to be able to leave you better than when we found you. Right? That has been the core of what our mission is about. I think another thing that's I've start to really understand as I go out and I'm in the field and talking to people and dealing with professionals like yourself and others, we should be considered, what we do should be considered more akin to long-term planning. I think when you look at this, when you look at your credit as an emergency, I need it for this moment right now. It can be, and you will get the help you need in many cases. But if you look at it in terms of like, I know I will be needing it 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 years from now, what am I doing now to move forward? How do I strategically build it up? Because on the personal and the credit side, the number one driver is time. Time in business, time with the credit line. Like the greatest credit scores typically, because people confuse credit score number. Let me kind of dispel this myth. Credit scores are cool. They're a factor or a measuring stick like a grading report card. However, the true merit of strong credit is not your score. It's your profile. And I think the word I'm looking for right now is the diversity and strength of your profile. Many times when you talk to people in the lending space, they mention a phrase that's very easy to understand. Thin. When a person has a thin profile, they do not have, even if the score is in the 700s, it does not give comparable credit, which means you're not going to get $500,000 home. You're not going to get a $60,000 car. You're not going to get a $25,000 credit line. Your score is 760. In the back of your mind, like, wait a minute, like I have a great score, but you have a terrible profile. You don't have the proper mix of accounts. You don't have the proper age of accounts. Average age of accounts should be over 5 years for you to have a stronger profile. 10 years to have a really strong profile. Some people have credit cards from the moment credit cards existed, 23, 25 years, right? So tell me somebody who has a score that's 670 versus a person with a very strong profile and a person who has a 770 with a very thin profile. And I'm going to tell you 9 times out of 10, the person with the 670, 680 is going to do much better across the board on all financial situations. So stop chasing scores, start building out your profile. Wow. And then you'll start to get the results you're looking for, which means long-term planning is much better than the short-term score.
That's the biggest lesson right now. There's a lot of learnings that happen in this conversation, but that's the big one. Focus on building a profile over the long term, a robust credit profile for the long term. Fantastic. I heard you say, I heard you use the phrase, we're building better borrowers.
Yeah.
Does that encapsulate the mission?
Yeah, we build better borrowers. And I know, and I thank you for bringing that back up, because a lot of times I'm just so focused on sharing, like my real hope is to help these individuals really understand it's a switch of thinking. Because when you go back to the term phrase, build a better borrower, it's like, what's your buying power today? And what is your buying power ongoing? This is not, I get the whole debt-free mission. There's nothing wrong with debt-free. I believe that as a biblical principle, it's better to be the lender than the borrower. Totally understand that. But if you are going to operate in the world today, you need to learn how to be a very savvy borrower in order to position yourself to have access to be a lender or to be able to leverage what borrowing can do. And I think that's strategy, right? That is thinking differently. Because if you only follow the predetermined cookie cut ways of doing finance, you will get many times frustrating results. We've lost this idea, Antonio, of critical thinking, right? But critical thinking is not basis of doing in a void. It's based on proper counsel. Because if the level of thinking got you to the results you have now, to get a different result, you need to change certain aspects. One of those things is, what information am I leveraging those thoughts against? Who am I connecting with? What am I reading? What am I watching? What am I consuming to give me a different perspective? Even if I don't agree with it, it allows for me to think differently, which could lead to, and hopefully lead to, a better result. If I don't know everything I need to know about how to navigate legal conversations, so I need to be able to position myself to get access to information from those who are in that world of legal. If you're not in the world of credit, you need to talk to somebody who's in that world of credit, and so forth and so on. And I think that it comes back to the hallmark of building a better borrower. It's like, hey, we know that borrowing in the end all be all is debt management, is risk management, right? And if you do not manage it with a level of discipline and understanding, you will succumb to it. And that's what we're protecting people from, succumbing to not knowing how to be disciplined in their process. But if you know how to be disciplined, my God, that debt management could lead to you to having a what we call a inheritance for your children's children's children, right? That's just my way. That's just my thought process.
No, that's clear. That's clear to me, and I know that it's clear to our audience. The concept of becoming a better borrower, the concept of building a better or stronger credit profile versus just focusing on the score, the concept of becoming more savvy and having this credit as a foundational aspect of your business on the personal side, but also on the business side, and looking at long term and being strategic about it. To be strategic, you need better information. You get better information from professionals who focus on that in that space. So to me, that's clear. That's the way that I digest the information and process it so I can act on it. Right. And speaking of acting on it, there's one thing that you mentioned to me a while ago, and I want to make sure that we recapture that thought, is a really easy and complimentary way to have that initial conversation with you, whether on a preemptive basis, I'm not sure that I need help, but it'd be good to know, or, hey, listen, I need to react to something or respond to something on my credit. You have mentioned to me before privately that you have an assessment that individuals can take advantage of on their own time, and that is zero cost to them, is kind of another way that you serve the community through knowledge and education and tools that they can take advantage of today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, what that's about, and how can people access that tool?
Absolutely. One of the thank you for a segue. That I tell you right now, honestly, Antonio, a lot of people tell me, hey, I don't need it, right? Or I don't know if I need it. Or when I need it, I'll let you know. Like, the truth is, do you know where you are today? Most people, when you ask, what's your credit score? Like, I don't know. I haven't checked it. So there has to be some methodology where we cannot be reactionary. We have to be proactive when it comes to our finances. And that's why we're getting that shift into saying, okay, what's my buying power now? So you'd be surprised how many people who have great credit don't know how to leverage that great credit for their business purposes. right? To be able to allow their business to be able to have a little bit more room, a little bit more flexibility. So I put together this tool. Uh, it's for a website called mysuccessscan.com. And we'll make sure that it's available to you in the show notes. Antonio will take care of that piece. But My Success Scan is essentially a 3-page thing. Takes about 5-7 minutes for you to complete. Absolutely no additional cost. This is a free tool. And the whole purpose behind it is to give an assessment, a quick snapshot of where your company is right now. It's a platform designed to kind of give you the feedback in real time of what your current buying power is based on the information you input. Listen, you don't want to put the wrong information in there. You don't need it's not for the to hide the information. The more honest you are with the assessment tool, the better we're able to determine where you currently can do. And the great thing about it, it's not a thing for us to sell to you or anything like that. It's just for you to get assessment. And if you feel that you want to go a little deeper into the results, by all means, we can schedule a follow-up to do so. But I encourage anyone, just like you here, Antonio, know where you are, right? Because you may know that your buying power is phenomenal. Great. Is there ways for you to improve upon it basically you become a better borrower? Because again, being a better borrower is not just about taking on debt. It's about how you take on debt at a better rate, right? It could just be about, hey, let's be able to position you to save on the money you already have access to, et cetera, right? So again, I think that tool is a tool, mysuccessscan.com. If anything, you can always reach out to us directly. We can be able to do a walkthrough assessment. Say, hey, Dave, I don't want to do this on my own. Let me schedule an appointment. Me and my team will be happy to walk that through. The very wife I mentioned throughout this entire podcast is my partner now in this endeavor, and I'm super excited to have her. So, you're just going to know you're going to have leverage, real experience in assessing where you are and how we can best assist you.
No, that's great value. Thank you for making that offer to our audience. We can all benefit from knowing versus guessing where we are today. I mean, that applies to all areas of life, but certainly on the credit and the borrowing power that you currently have as a business owner. So any parting thoughts, Dave, before we conclude this amazing episode? I hate to shut it, but man, we've been at this for a while, and I think it's time to kind of start wrapping things up.
Right. First and foremost, I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share on your platform and with your audience. And whether you're hearing this for the first time as it gets live and as you first posted out, you want to make sure you subscribe, because I know not only is he bringing value in this conversation, but I know there's tremendous value in previous episodes. You want to always be glued into what's coming up next. As far as StartNow is concerned, we're excited. We're growing. We're building out all the framework. Just know that it's not just in English, but we also have Espanol to be able to assist you in your needs as well. So just to be clear, that's one of the things that we're happy to expand and grow in. Like I said, I've been a partner to the Latino community for as knee-high as a grasshopper growing up in Miami. So it's something that we happily extend our support to. And then if you can always want to reach out to us, feel free to reach out to us at startnowcredit.net, or you can always send us an email at help@startnowcredit.com. Either way, we'll be able to assist you and ensure that that information is going to be made available to you as well. But again, the last parting note and sage wisdom I can possibly share with you is what I said earlier. The best time to have gotten started was a year ago. The next best time is now.
100%. Thank you. Thank you, Dave, for your friendship. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for the always bringing the best of you to every conversation that we had, and not only for my benefit, for the benefit of our audience. So if you found amazing value, like I know you have, make sure that you click the like button and subscribe. It's important that you subscribe, because that way you have access to not only this episode, but all the previous episodes of LatProXperience. And you find us in all the major podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and on social media. The new episodes launch every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So again, like, subscribe, and, share this content. If you found value, of course, share with your community, because I know that they will find value as well. Thanks again, David. I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship and our relationship, and I look forward to having further conversations down the line, not only for our benefit, but the benefit of those who connect to LatProXperience. Have a fantastic rest of the week, and remember that our success is inevitable. See you soon.